Hey there, folks. Welcome back. As I think I just told you in the introduction, right now I have the fun of talking to someone who claims that his name is Zach Levi. I haven't seen any identification, any corroboration, but we're going to take him at his word. He's an actor. You would know him from Chuck, Shazam, and perhaps from Tangled. And because Tangled, I think, is animated, you wouldn't recognize him from that, but maybe you know his voice. Zach, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, man. Nice to be on with you.
What was it like to be animated?
It was fun. I mean, I grew up a big Disney nerd, a Diz nerd, as one might say. Loved all of the cartoons, all the old, classic Disney Mickey stuff, but then also the Renaissance and all the movies and all of the musicals. And I literally dreamed of one day being in a Disney animated musical, and then I got to be in one. And not for nothing, but it's one of the best. Tangled is a really excellent Disney.
But being animated as you were, like, were there are no medical issues?
Occasionally a safe tries to fall on me. Some Acme dynamite is always falling around me. No, it's all good.
So it worked out, all right. Because people told me that there can be stuff that lingers, and just from the process of being animated. So you are in a new film starring my friend Patricia Heaton, who is such a great actress. I want to ask you, since you're a young guy, to embarrass you, was it intimidating to work with? Not it's not about her fame, her talent. She is an amazingly talented actress. Were you daunted?
I was not. I was not daunted.
You should have been. You should have been, Zach. You should have been daunted.
I was in my right mind.
If you knew what you're dealing with
all day long. Yeah, exactly. No, fortunately, I had met and known Patty a little bit prior to that, and knew she was such a wonderful person, and she is such a fantastic talent. And I was really honored that she said yes to this little movie, because it's a really small movie. I mean, it's a very slice of life, very grand film. And she plays my mom in the film, and she crushes it. She's so good.
So what is the plot of the film, basically? Because the title is The Unbreakable Boy. So what's that about?
Yeah, so it's a true story about a real family navigating the human condition, really. It's a young couple that gets pregnant on their third date and decide to keep the child and, figure it out along the way, as they do. And so they're navigating their own selves and their relationship and marriage. And then they have two children, and the oldest of which has brittle bones disease, osteogenesis imperfecta, but also is on the autistic spectrum. And so a lot of the movie centers around that child, Austin, and what it means to raise a child on the autistic spectrum, or any child with special needs for that matter, and how difficult those waters can be to navigate while you're also trying to figure out who you are and how do you have a healthy relationship with your spouse. And, it goes to some, real places. It's not just rainbows and butterflies. I mean, my character, Scott, he's a real guy, he's done very well by his family at this point, but he went through some really gnarly, dark times through alcoholism, and he doesn't pull any punches. We don't pull any punches in the film, but it holds you, though, like with a lot of love. And so when you get delivered on the other side of the story with lots of redemption and lots of hope and lots of love, and what it means to love yourself and love your kids, it's powerful, man.
And would you call it a quote unquote faith-based film? Like, I always have, we could talk about that issue of what that even means, but I'm just curious.
No, it's a great question. I would call it more like faith infused. Like the premise of the film is not hinged on the faith. Like, to me, a faith-based film is either a straight up biblical story, or it's a story that is really hinging upon faith as being a part of its main, story points. And I will say Scott's faith is a major a transformational point in his life, but the story is not hinging on that. It's definitely laced in there, it's infused with it, but it's not anything. If you're not a person of faith, it's not something that's going to trip you up by any stretch.
Right. Okay. But you think of it as more as faith infused. I just want you to know that I find that kind of funny. It's a funny concept. Faith infused, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be frightened. It's only faith infused. whatever the heck that means.
It's like, like all these fizzy waters we drink now, right? I mean, it's that you don't really get the full flavor.
No,
no, it's
just a tincture of biblical faith
infused with some flavor. Yeah,
don't be frightened. Well, so now it comes to us from the Kingdom Story Company. That's the folks behind Jesus Revolution and the best Christmas pageant ever.
And American Underdog, which was the film I did with them where I portrayed Kurt Warner, the NFL quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you identify publicly as a person of faith or as a person infused with faith?
Well, I guess both. I don't know. I mean, I think a person of faith is greatly infused with faith, right? It's a huge part of who we are, our identity. I've identified as a person of faith my whole life and have never shirked away from that in my career.
When did you first become infused? You grew up in a Christian home?
Yeah. I grew up in a non-denominational Christian home, spirit-filled, speaking in tongues and
spirit-filled. We're on the same page, brother.
Yeah.
In fact, I got a Rhema word of knowledge for you right now, which I cannot share on the air.
Okay.
Not really. No, I don't. But listen, because you're in Hollywood, you've been in some big Hollywood movies. I assume that's tricky. Patty Heaton is a woman of faith. She's handled that very well. But what I find funny, and I don't think I've teased her publicly about this, but like somebody like Patty Heaton, they can kind of hide behind the Catholic thing. Like they kind of act like, oh, I'm just Catholic. It's like I'm just Irish Catholic. She's a person of Christian faith. But when you're Catholic, it almost seems like, oh, it's just a thing. I play paddleball. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But you're not Catholic. You're just a Christian. So has that been a challenge for you? I mean, I know Hollywood is not typically faith friendly.
Okay. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know all the conversations that people have internally with themselves or with other people when it comes to the judgments that they have. For example, like I could have been talking about how I'm a person of faith earlier in my career, and there could have been people who were like, ew, we don't, but they wouldn't say that to my face per se. They would go and talk about that behind my back. There could have been that, there could be producers or executives or casting directors that don't like me and don't want to work with me because of that. But I don't ever feel like it's been some major conspiracy or whatever. To be honest, I think, in fact, Patty and I were just at a summit, a kind of a culture summit, and we were talking about this. I think more than anything, people just are responding to whether or not are you a decent human being? Are you a kind human being? If you are trying to force your beliefs, whether they're Christian or Catholic or otherwise, down anyone's throat, if you're trying to bang them over the head and somehow carry yourself as holier than thou, judgmental, whatever, then of course nobody wants to work with you. I wouldn't want to work with you. I might even share the same spiritual faith or whatever, but I still wouldn't want to work with you because you're annoying and you're not caring. Like one of my favorite quotes, certainly of within Christendom, although recently I've heard that it might not be true that this person didn't say this, which would be a bummer, but the quote still holds true to me. And it's St. Francis of Assisi who said, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. To me, that should be baseline Christianity, Catholicism, pick your religion. Like if you want people to understand what it is you believe in, then you better go walk that walk so vividly, so impactfully that you don't have to say anything because people see it in you. They see it in your eyes. They hear it in your voice. They feel it in your character. You are exemplifying it in your actions. So when people feel the need to have to go and be really preachy, I find that that's because they're compensating for not actually walking a lot of that, just in being who they are.
People can see my faith when I don't stab the people I hate. For example, I don't do it because I'm a Christian. It's not allowed. Good. I can't be just stabbing people because I hate their guts. And that's how people know that guy is probably a Christian. The Holy Spirit prevented him doing that and being in prison forever, which he would deserve. No, it's interesting you say this because honestly, that issue has become so big for me. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, came out called Letter to the American Church. And I'm dealing with this issue of how many Christians, they talk about it. It's a lot about talking about your faith. And there's nothing wrong with talking about your faith. But if you're not living it, probably you should shut up. And I think that that's it. It's kind of it's a disconnect in the culture. It goes back to, I wrote a book about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He saw this in the German church. They were all about talking about their faith, and I believe this. But when the time comes to live it out, that's really, what God is interested. He's interested in your living it out. So it's a hugely essential thing. We're going to keep you for another segment. Don't run away, folks. We're talking to Zach Levi. The new film is called The Unbreakable Boy. We'll be right back. Folks, welcome back. I'm talking to Zachary Levi, who has been in many, many films. He's been animated once, but he recovered. You seem fine. You seem like a perfect live action human being. You don't even seem slightly animated at this point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's very
That's
impressive.
more than a lot of people give me credit for.
Probably a lot of vitamin drips. Whatever they did, it worked, and you just seem fine. I just want to say. Okay, so we're talking about the film that is out in theaters right now called The Unbreakable Boy, starring our friend Patty Heaton. And I want to ask you, did Patty try to shove her Catholicism down your throat?
No. I love how passionate she is about her Catholicism. I know, I really do.
I was kidding. I don't see her shoving her Catholicism down my throat. I was just looking for a cheap laugh, Zachary. So thank you.
Yeah, I keep forgetting you're really into those.
Yeah, it's bad. No. It's terrible.
Yeah, then I should just go along with the joke. Yeah, she was horrible. She was really she talk about just like waterboarding you with.
She tried to get you to wear a nun's habit. She just doesn't care. She doesn't care.
A ruler.
Yeah.
Smacking wrists and knuckles all day.
Yeah. Well, she's one of those folks, seriously, who has navigated, faith and Hollywood dramatically well. I mean, she's sort of legendary. I was kidding you when we started out and saying were you intimidated working with her? No joke. My wife and I saw her in a play that she did, off-Broadway play in New York about, I don't know, it's got to be about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that. I was astonished at her as an actress, because it's one thing when you see a sitcom, you kind of think like, oh yeah, it's a sitcom. Anybody could do that. That's not true, but you kind of, it feels like it just because it feels very natural and, and you're playing actors. But in this play, I was blown away by your acting skills. I thought, holy cow, that's just amazing. And I think people don't often realize how much talent actors have, because they make it look easy. They're just doing something that it looks like anybody can do. But of course, that's not the case. What other projects are you working on right now, or what's in development in your life?
Well, just to comment on what you said, no, it's very true. I mean, it's like, it's why we all love watching professional sports and feeling like we would have caught that ball or we would have thrown it better or whatever. Right. And people like Patty, or really any actor, oftentimes people associate you to indefinitely whatever role they found you in, whatever was the kind of your big moment. And for her on Everybody Loves Raymond, multi-camera sitcom, people will often think of her and be like, oh, funny and, really good at this comedy space. But the truth is, in order to be a great comic, you really have to understand life and good real acting oftentimes in order to then hit those moments, know the timing, and why it's different than just a regular cadence, but really, kind of nail those moments. And she does it so effortlessly. She's so talented. What am I working on other than that? I've got a film, this rock climbing film that I'm going to go shoot in Rome for a few months coming up soon. Wait
a minute. What? Are you just making this up? Are you just making stuff up? Oh yeah, I got this rock climbing film. Yeah, who doesn't have one of those? You've got a rock climbing film in Rome.
Well, we're going to shoot. Yeah, so there's not a lot of rock climbing in Rome per se, but there are the Dolomites nearby. And we're going to shoot most of the film on one of these volumetric LED stages, because trying to shoot it all in the middle of a cliff face would be pretty difficult. So we're going to shoot it on a sound stage for the most part, and then we'll go do some of the exterior stuff out there. And I guess
shooting it in a sound stage reduces the risk of plummeting.
Yes,
you always want to keep plummeting.
Not a zero risk. There's still a possibility of some plummetage.
Wow.
But yes. So that's the next shop I'll go shoot. Right now, Unbreakable Boy, just trying to get that out to the masses. It's such a beautiful film. And, I will say, I really am hoping that the conservative audience, I want everybody to see it. It's not a conservative movie per se, but I think it definitely checks a lot of the boxes that conservative audiences are looking for in a film.
Yeah.
And I just need everybody out there listening or watching or whatever to understand, I look online, I see a lot of conservative folks who are very angry that there's not a lot of content for them out there. Well, if we don't support conservative content, then more of it's not going to be made for people. So I just hope that people understand that, like, you gotta support it. Otherwise, the studios will never see that there's a reason to make it.
You don't realize, Zach, you're singing my song. That's my song you're singing. And you don't even have to call it conservative content. It's just good content, right?
Yes, it's just good content.
It's just good content.
Woke. It's not whatever all that, people are so angry. It's like, I just want a movie that's just a good. It's not, it's like, great. Then when you find them, go watch them. When you find those podcasts, the shows, or talk, whatever, support them, because otherwise we're not going to get more of it.
And I say that to everybody who's listening to this show, for example. If you're listening to the show now, you should be listening harder, even harder. Listen up. No, but it's kind of true, because I was recently doing a lot of press for the Bonhoeffer film. I don't know if you saw that, but a film was made about the life of Bonhoeffer. I wrote a book about him some years ago, and it's such a great film. And I said to everybody, just what you said, like, you need to support great films. It's about a hero of the faith. Like, you need to tell people about it. You need to go see it, because otherwise you'll get less things like that. So I'm very excited for this film, The Unbreakable Boy. Folks, for the love of Pete, go see it, The Unbreakable Boy, and it's starring Zach Levi and Patty Heaton. I would see it just for that. But Zach Levi, a joy to get to know you a little bit. God bless you. Congratulations on the film and on all you're doing.
Thank you, brother. Such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for sharing the good word with the audience. And I look forward to meeting you in person at some point.
Same here. Thank you.
Bless you, bro. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll hold your friendship. I won't hold your friendship with Ryan Bate against you. I know it can happen to the best of us.
Unfortunately, I am going to hold your friendship with him against you.
He's so annoying. He's a good man, but annoying.
He's the most beautiful fly in the ointment you could ever hope for.
All right. Well, God bless you. We'll air this tomorrow.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Good. We're so glad to be done.
Well, you did great.
It is though. I'm like foggy. Chris, you have no idea.